Good afternoon, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So recently I did a video talking about lumber prices, and the main question I got from the audience in the comment section was, when is lumber prices going to rise? And now I find this to be a very interesting question. When most people are looking towards lumber prices rising, they think about rising to the elevated position that they had achieved back during the COVID pandemic, in which that lumber prices ran up to $1,700 per thousand. And I think a lot of people are concerned about something like this happening again, especially with the credible threat of tariffs and the idea of expensive Canadian lumber coming into the United States, depriving us of the ability to have cheap lumber. But I think a lot of confusion is happening within this industry that really puts a lot of speculation, or even just conspiratorial belief that's happening within the lumber industry. So I'm going to try and explain it very simply. Lumber prices will rise when the home builder sentiment turns positive. And now what I mean by that is that when the home builders see buyer traffic coming back to market. Now, what creates the buyer traffic, again, can be anybody's guess. Most likely it's going to be the cheaper interest rates or lower interest rates, bringing in cheaper mortgages, encouraging those who are sitting on the sidelines to come off the sidelines and start buying homes. If you come in and start buying homes, buyer traffic increases. The builder gets excited about that, saying, hey, I'd like to build when there's buyer traffic, because if I'm going to build a home, I want to make sure that there's going to be somebody on the other end of this when I complete it that's going to be able to purchase this house. So understanding that the builder wants to see buyer traffic in order to create the environment of confidence for them to then go into that project to start building that home. Now, if the buyer traffic is low, then the builder does not feel it, does not feel excited about starting a home. I mean, if you were speculating on building this house with the idea that it's going to sell for a particular price, but by the time it's completed, the price has fallen, well, that's cutting into your profits. That's cutting into everything that you were working towards. Why would you go down that road? Most likely you were not going to do that. So the builder themselves are going to be incredibly discouraged if the buyer is not there. Right? So understanding that little section of it right there, it doesn't have anything to do with anything else. I mean, there's a lot that has to go into it, but understanding that portion of the entire industry, that when the builder themselves start seeing the buyer traffic come in a positive fashion where they feel good about the buyer traffic, you're going to see them ramp up production. Builders want to build. They don't want to sit around waiting to build. They want to get started in building. They are not making money unless they are putting it together. So understand that the builder wants to do it. They don't want to hold back. They don't want to cut back on production. They don't want to slow down on their economic activity. They want to increase their economic activity. But they do not want to increase that economic activity only to find that there is nothing on the other end. There is no economic activity on the other end. They put the time, the effort, the investment, the labor, the cost of everything that goes into it, only to find that the buyer on the other end is going, well, you're charging too much, right? And so they're not going to build. Why would they build if they can't profit? Right? That's the key to understanding it. So no, just think about it yourself. If you were somebody who makes anything, I mean, it doesn't matter if you were making cupcakes, building picnic tables, if you're even cleaning houses or doing some other sort of service out there, but your customer is not showing up, why would you try? You can make as many tables, you can make as many cupcakes, you can promise to have all the hours for cleaning and doing all the service, but the customer is not there, you're not going to profit. How encouraged are you going to be to invest into your business? If the customer isn't there, you're not going to be there either. And that's what we're facing right now. So understand that lumber prices right now are incredibly low. It doesn't seem that way for people who follow lumber prices over the course of the last 10, 15, 20 years. Yeah, lumber has been cheaper in the past, but consider everything that we have gone through. And also consider that this is somewhat close to the price that we were experiencing in 2018. I mean, lumber had peaked out at $650 per thousand. Right now, it's around $680 per thousand. It's not that much higher than it was back in 2018. So yes, lumber prices are fairly low. Could they be lower? Absolutely. If they go lower, most likely you're going to find that the mills are going to curtail development. They do not want to produce an extensive amount of lumber that's selling for less than what they can profit for. Like 550 per thousand is the limit. I've seen mills shut down production in an extreme fashion when lumber futures get to 550. They're like, that's it, we're out of the game, we're not profiting, we're done. And you start seeing the inventory deplete, demand starts to pick up, prices start to move up, and the mills start up in production again. Understanding that it's a supply-demand imbalance. If you look at it any other way, you're going to have to start moving into conspiratorial, manipulation, all the other stuff that goes into it. But really what it comes down to is everybody wants to make money. Nobody wants to work for free. And now knowing that's the case and that's what really drives the economic activity is profit. If you cannot profit, you're not going to participate. If the buyer is not there, there's no way you could possibly profit, because that's where the profit comes from, is from the buyer itself. So know that if the buyer is going to be discouraged from high interest rates and the inability to have a good job that makes the payment, then most likely you're not going to find a builder who is excited about bringing more inventory. If you do not have somebody bringing more inventory to the market, you're going to have the continuous supply and demand issues. This is going to continue. There's nothing that can change it. Even if you decide today, like, boom, let's wave a magic wand and make everything awesome, right? Make the buyer be present, make the home builder, be encouraged. You wave the magic wand and you just create the economic environment that is absolutely splendid for everybody. And it will still take at least 6 months to a year before you really see any kind of impact from it. Because how long does it take to actually start a house from the time that you decide to do it to the time that you are actually putting that project together? You have a lot of logistics to work through. You have to buy the property, get the permitting, hire the contractors, line them all up, make sure everything is ready to go before you start that project. And that can take a long time. Like, some people might be really good at it. Like, they can get a piece of property and get fired off within a month or two getting the permits, or have everything lined up and ready to go. Most are not like that. Most have to use a bank, have to use loans. They have to, line up subcontractors, general contractors, subcontractors, materialists. There's a lot to go through. And if you haven't done it, then it takes even longer as you go through the trial and errors as you make the mistakes building a home. If you are very proficient at it and you haven't done it for a while, you have to ramp up production. So again, people have this kind of delusional thought that you can just go out there and just build as many houses as you want. It doesn't work like that. And even the time that you decide to build homes, it takes, there's a lag period before it ever comes into fruition. Knowing this to be the case will give you a much better understanding of how it is that you deal with not only your own projects, whether you're a contractor or even the homeowner yourself, trying to figure out how it is that you're going to do that addition or, build that, ADU in the backyard or something of that nature. Understanding this from the reality of the situation. If you want to look at it as a manipulated, conspiratorial, controlled issue that's happening out there, then you'll probably find plenty of evidence of it out there, but you will never, ever, ever be able to see it like this. You will never be able to call it out accurately way ahead of time, right? Because you're looking at it from the manipulative side of things. To me, I see it from what it really is, supply-demand issues. If you have a lack of demand, then you're going to find the supply increases, prices go down, and the mills are going to shut down production. That's exactly what I am witnessing right now. And so as we see the limited amount of production during a time in which they should be ramping up production, it leads me to believe that there's not a lot of economic activity occurring out there in the broader economy. Once I see the demand for lumber start to pick up and I see those prices moving up because the mills can't supply the demand, it's going to tell me that there's a lot of economic activity starting to ramp up. I can see it way ahead of everybody else. There's people out there who say that lumber is a lagging indicator, it's no good, you can't use it. And I find that to be one of the most hilarious things out there, considering that this channel grew to 157,000 subscribers based on my lumber information and how it was that I was able to deliver it ahead of anybody else out there, and how it was that I was able to predict the market so accurately. Why? It's because I'm viewing it from a working class point of view with boots on the ground. We are incredibly sensitive to what it is that's happening out there within the economy if we can recognize it. You do realize we are the cutting edge, the first hand on the front line view of the economy. People who are the economists, the big time investors, all those hedge funds and everything, they are waiting. They are literally waiting for you to live your life so that they can read the data about it. Think about that for just a second. They're waiting for you to live your life so that they can get the data about it. How close are you to the information if they are waiting for you? Right? Take that into consideration. All right, Uneducated Economist, you guys let me know.